to help people to talk about a subject that is very touchy, very important, which is sex tourism, sexual exploitation, human trafficking, all of those are really pretty important subjects, very important. The definition in Wikipedia, you can read it right there. It's the practice of traveling to foreign countries, often to a different country, with the intention of engaging in sexual activity or sexual relations, in exchange for money. So basically, it's hiring, going to another country to engage in sexual activities for money, basically prostitution. Problem is kind of traveling for prostitution. Why does that happen? Well, in some countries, prostitution is illegal. For example, in the United States, most of the United States, prostitution is illegal, with the exception maybe just to Las Vegas. It does exist in some other locations, some other areas, but it's illegal. And so people seeking sexual relations may have to travel where to countries where there is no restrictions, or they are but only for minors. Some people will travel to another country to have sex for a low dollar amount. In the United States will cost quite a bit of money to have sex with a prostitute. So they will go to another country and have multiple sexual encounters, or even move to the other country just to have sexual relations without restrictions. So it's kind of compare. You can be comparing that to drugs. So basically, when something is prohibited, the person will go somewhere else to get it, and so that's why it's happening. It quite often happens in the underdeveloped countries where the financial need makes people have sex for money, even minors. So it's kind of a major problem for underdeveloped countries because there is a sexual exploitation of, especially of minors. It's basically the attempt or the actual attempted abuse of a position of vulnerability, differential power, or trust for sexual purposes. So normally, like in sometimes it could be an older person taking advantage of a relative, a minor relative, or somebody who is in a position of vulnerability, maybe depending on that person. But also, it could include without actually effective consent. So basically, the person is incapacitated, or it's basically an abuse. Person cannot refuse, or maybe allows it because the there is a financial need or things like that, and the views could be recording, photographing, or transmitting images of private sexual activity to other people, or just to keep it for themselves. So private parts being recorded, things like that. So that's part of sexual exploitation. It's not just having sex, but also recording images and videos and things of a person who is uh, under vulnerability. Um, and in Colombia, for example, the country that I'm in, there is prostitution is allowed. Basically happens. It's not. I don't think it's legal, but it's allowed. It's not prosecuted. But there is a part that is called sexual exploitation when somebody hires a minor for sex. That's called sexual exploitation. So, and that has heavy penalties, many years in jail. So if somebody under the wrong impression comes to Colombia to have sex with a minor for money, then that's considered sexual exploitation, and it has a lot of many years of jail. So don't think that because the age of consent is low in Colombia, that means that somebody could come and have sex for money with a minor. So it's kind of a thin line between how come if the sex is allowed with minors, how come there's penalties for sexual exploitation. So that's kind of a thin line there. So you need to know the difference. You cannot just go somewhere and have sex with a minor for money, because that could have a major penalty, many years in jail. And now with the new laws, there is actually was approved that if somebody has sex with a minor, there is sexual exploitation, things like that. If the minor, for example, is under 14 years of age, that the person could get a life in prison without possibility of parole, and basically no, almost no guarantees of any kind. So it's very risky to come to Colombia and have sex with a minor, because the penalties are extremely high. Same for photographing or taking videos of minors, things like that. They could be 20 years, 25 years in jail. So be very careful about having sex, coming to Colombia just to have sex with minors. Not the same for adults. Adults is okay, but with minors you gotta be very careful not to have sex with minors. You gotta check for ID, ask for ID, because you don't want to have sex with a minor by mistake. Human trafficking is something related to basically forcing people to go to another country to have sex in there. For example, bringing people to another country to have these poor people have sex in a forceful manner by fraud or coercion, things like that. For example, say a foreigner comes to Colombia or whatever country, and then convince some people to travel with him back to the home country, and then the person gets abused, forced into sex, or coerced into having sex with other people. That's human trafficking. Very dangerous for both the person who does it and for the person who allows them to be taken. Sometimes they do it willingly, sometimes they get convinced, sometimes they know what they're going to do. But once the person is in another country, they don't have much resources to escape. They could be enclosed in a house for years, forced to having sex for hardly any money, if just for food, and forced to pay a high fee because of the travel expense, things like that could last years. So be very careful if you are convinced to travel to another country for sex, to be into person who will be into human trafficking. That it could happen, for example, that a mother allows the child to travel with whoever, cousin, uncle, or whatever, to another country, and then the uncle or whoever exploits this minor, and then the minor may even become pregnant and things like that. So do not allow a minor, even an adult, to travel to a foreign country where the person is not going to be able to defend themselves, herself. So not even adults, because even adults can be abused and forced to do into things that they don't want to do. Maybe even some kind of labor that could be not just sexual, but it could be just working in the field for pennies on the dollar, things like that. That also involves human trafficking, just working hard labor for hardly any money, things like that. You can read the legal penal code about the laws. For example, the Colombian penal code is in English. You can find it at the Office of the Justice Programs, Department of Justice, or I mean even in Spanish if you speak Spanish. So if somebody actually wants to have sex with a minor, you need to watch for the age of consent, so you don't have sex by mistake with a minor, and then the penalties are huge. You need to know the laws. In some countries is more or less, the age varies, the age of consent varies from country to country. So you need to actually, if you want to travel, for example, to Brazil, the age of consent is 14. But you gotta be careful, because sometimes there are some limitations or some things. For example, yes, 14, but you gotta be married, or 14 if this happens. Things like that. You need to be, for example, in Afghanistan, to have sex with a minor, the person needs to be married. So you need to watch for age of consent, because it varies. For example, I think I just saw 21 years of age for Bahrain. So, for example, you have sex with an 18-year-old in Bahrain, that's not allowed. Do you know what I'm saying? So you need to 18 for Benin and Bhutan and things like that. So it varies from country to country. For example, in Iran, the person needs to be married. Penalties in some countries could be pretty stiff, pretty harsh. Could be death, or maybe could be slapping with one of those things that really hurts, damage the skin really bad. Whipping, that's pretty bad. For example, South Korea is 20 years of age. Things like that. So you gotta watch for all of those. If you want to travel and actually for sex, you need to be very careful not to break the laws of the destination. Colombia, in particular, it has increased the penalties in many ways. If you decide to travel to Colombia, yes, you can have sex with an adult for money, no problem. But if by mistake or you do have sex with a minor, you could be in jail for many years. And also, you think that you're gonna escape, that you're gonna be doing no. If, for example, most hotels have cameras inside that are being watched by law enforcement. So let's say you think that nobody saw you coming into a hotel with a minor, but then inside the hotel there are cameras that will record you entering the hotel with a minor and entering a room with a minor. And then even if they don't retain you right there in there, you are on camera. And that shows that you enter a room with a minor, or you paid for the room while with a minor. So be very careful. Most hotels, outside the hotels in Colombia, there are cameras outside the hotels pointing towards the hotel. Even in the red zone, in the areas where there's prostitution, even more in there, because they're gonna be what kind of be watching for that for those sexual abusers. So be very careful, because if you intend to do sex with a minor, you could be arrested, because there are a lot of cameras, there are police around that could actually raid hotels at any time. So don't take the chance. I'd rather better to have sex with an adult. There is not much difference really into having sex with a 16-year-old or 18-year-old, because it's basically the same body, maybe it's just a little younger. So why take the chance of many years in jail for just a little bit of a younger age? Just get sex with an adult, and you will even have a better sex with a person who knows how to have sex. Medellin is one of the cities that has a lot of sex tourism. There is parquilleras, there is other parts of the city where there will be minors or even adults doing prostitution. But don't take the chance. It's just better, just if you want to have sex, do it just to have sex with an adults. It's very inexpensive. Not as much in parquilleras, but in general, don't take the chance. Just if you need to have sex and your country is not allowed, there is no prostitution allowed in your country, yeah, you can come to Medellin or Colombia to have sex as much as you want, but make sure it's with adults. Ask for an ID. If they don't have an ID, don't take the chance. Why be in a jail for 30, 40 years or life in prison? It's better just have sex with an adult or different adults. You can pick a different adult every day, and you will be happy. Anyway, that's all I wanted to tell you. Take care and have a safe life. Goodbye.